My MIL landscaped our entire garden while dog sitting for a week. What do I do? My husband, 35M, and I, 29F, went on holiday for a week and just got back tonight. My in-laws stayed at our house and looked after our dog for us while we were away. We got back tonight to find that MIL has completely changed our garden without our consent while we've been gone. We have a smallish paved garden with some raised flower beds, a couple of trees and some nice flowers and bushes. Most were left by previous owners and we've cared for them the best we can, weeded, laid wood chip and kept the garden tidy. While we've been away, an entire tree on the right-hand side has been removed and is now just a stump, with new shrubs and flowers planted in its place. My roses, which I enjoyed caring for, have been cut to a stump with nothing left, the trellis completely bare. The two other trees have been cut back dramatically, all their flowers and buds are gone, the huge flowers on one bush have been cut off, and the garden feels very exposed and barren. The tree that was cut to a stump flowered beautifully in summer and attracted lots of butterflies, and I'm big on biodiversity so that was so sad, and the roses I'm devastated about as my uncle was helping me care for them. Various other jobs have been done like cutting a small patch of grass we have at the back, and jet washing the paving slabs, which I'm grateful for. It's important to note, nothing like this was discussed before we left, we only asked MIL and FIL to care for our dog, nothing more. MIL mentioned patching some missing sealant on the windows of our shed for us, that was all. I really struggle with anxiety and needing to be in control and I've been sobbing this evening, I'm devastated. MIL is asleep and FIL is staying out of it, I'm sleeping downstairs with our dog because I can't stand to be away from her either. It's 3 a.m. but I can't sleep. What do I do? Am I right to be upset? I'm certain their intentions were good, but I feel like this is an enormous overstep and I'm really upset. Update. Thank you to everyone who left comments on my original post, it was really helpful to see everyone acknowledging that this was an overstep and suggesting that my husband lead on the conversation. To answer some questions, I think the tree was a buddleia, which I think is usually a bush, but it was quite mature and had a trunk about 8 inches wide and was around 2/3 meters tall and very much looked like a tree. Sorry if I gave the impression it was like a huge tree that required a tree surgeon, but it wasn't a tiny bush either, it was still a task to chop it down, and they didn't hire anyone, they did it themselves. Thank you for all the suggestions about tree law, I've learned something new. Thank you to all that said the roses might be salvageable, they are literally a stump only 3 inches tall, but I'll try the blood and bone mixture to promote growth and try to bring them back. MIL has done things like this before but not to this extreme, she gets bored and one thing leads to another and you can tell part of her knows she's gone too far but she tries to justify it anyway. It's well known in the family that MIL can't sit still and finds jobs to do to be helpful, but to my knowledge she hasn't done anything this big before. Now for the update. In the morning my husband spoke to MIL alone and laid out how this was really inappropriate for her to make changes to our garden without permission or even notification. He said she offered some explanations as to why she did it, but did acknowledge it wasn't right to go ahead and cut down trees without asking. He posed the question many of you suggested of how would she feel if we looked after her home and repainted a room, or chopped a tree down in her garden, or removed a fence. I think that made her realize. He asked her to speak to me directly and apologize, as I said to him I needed an apology and for her to acknowledge that what she did was wrong. Later MIL spoke to me privately and said she was sorry I was so upset by the garden, and I said thank you. Her explanation for the tree is that she was doing some pruning, didn't ask her to but anyway, and when she trimmed the branches they were black inside. They went to a garden center and got advice and were told it was this kind of bug infestation? MIL is adamant she was being bitten by whatever bug it is as well. I don't know, the tree was green and healthy looking to me. Anyway, at no point did they speak to us despite going to all this trouble, then they decided to just chop it down since it was infested. She did at least say the words, I know we should have called you or asked. Then I said, and the roses? I loved those and my uncle was helping me keep them going, and she said the dog had been chewing on them. Bear in mind these are in a raised bed she'd have to jump up it to get to, and apparently she yelped and hurt herself on the thorns. So obviously the logical conclusion isn't to keep an eye on the puppy, a 4-month-old lab, but to chop down the flowering roses. That was the end of that discussion, but later in the day she and FIL went to a garden center to try to replace both the buddleia and the roses but couldn't find the right kind. They have said that if we find the plants we want they will buy them for us so we can replace them. Things are civil again. I'm still hurt and I hate how my garden looks, especially since other trees and flowering bushes were cut so far back all the color is gone. It feels very exposed and like a new build/showroom garden before any character is added, but I can't make the plants regrow and replanting the tree would mean removing the stump they left, so I CBA. Personally, I will never allow MIL and FIL to be alone in my house again, and they will not be asked to look after our dog unless it's at their own home. I do have a generally good relationship with both MIL and FIL, and they are generous and kind people, but this lack of respecting boundaries has been an ongoing issue, especially since we got our house, which they did a huge amount of work on with us and for which I'm extremely grateful. I do, however, feel like this contributes to how they view the house and garden as a project and not as our home, despite the fact we have lived in the finished house for 2 years now, and might be why they thought it was no big deal to go around messing with our garden. My husband has been on my side throughout this and took us all, me, him, and the dog, out for a Sunday roast today to cheer us up. He's upset with his parents as well and has done his best to make me feel better and validate my feelings. He's the best. Edit. Thank you for your insightful comment. I'm sorry to hear your journey was a complicated one. Everyone in the family is certain MIL has undiagnosed ADHD, and we have raised it to her multiple times, sincerely and sometimes jokingly, but she won't entertain it. She has a fairly old-fashioned view on mental health and neurodivergence, so I don't think she will ever recognize it in herself. This is why I say I don't think she is acting maliciously, just without understanding or recognition for how it might affect others. I'm not a professional, so I don't feel right giving her an armchair diagnosis in a Reddit post, which is why I tried to explain it as she can't sit still, but yes, it's most likely ADHD. Both my husband and I suspect we may be neurodivergent as well, and I have been professionally assessed for autism but not diagnosed, so I do appreciate the mental whiplash that realization can bring. I hope you're doing well now.